Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Wednesday night segment of The Outer Realm with myself, Michelle DeRoche, and Amelia Pisano. We are broadcasting live via International Public Radio on the United Public Radio Network, 105.3 FM in New Orleans. This evening's segment is fully sponsored by the amazing folks over at Folgers Coffee. So thank you, Folgers. We love you as always. Tonight, we welcome Ronald Kinsella, author of The Digital Demon, to the show, all the way from England. And he'll be discussing aliens, alien abductions, alien purpose. Why are they here? I don't know. We're going to find out. In order to participate in the show, you will all need to pop over to YouTube on UFO Paranormal Radio or International Public Radio, even UFO Gods and Extraterrestrials. How to write that down. Please subscribe. And you can also go looking for us on Twitch, I believe Twitter, of course, all of the networks, Facebook pages. If you want immediate responses or to be acknowledged, aside from hoping that we just see it, please go on UFO Paranormal Radio, tag Amelia, and she'll be able to respond and make sure your questions get out there. Of course, we as the hosts can definitely see all of your comments. Just because we don't make mention of it, we will try, doesn't mean that we don't see it. So please settle yourselves in and get ready for a really awesome show. Here we go. Wow. Pony doesn't make me a lady. Oh my goodness. I'm going to joke,
wow.
Honestly.
Yeah, I'm like, wow.
I'm like, what?
Wow. International Community for Alien Research, ICAR. Yes. Hey, just because I have a pony does not.
Anyways. I know. And with that being said, hey, Zach.
Hi, Zach. I can't even see that far down yet because Joe's like, he's just completely flooded my feed. Hi, Michelle.
Yeah,
he's just completely flooded my feed.
Yeah,
but,
that's just letting us know where everything is, which is really good. But what I don't see is, UFO Paranormal Radio. Okay, YouTube, there it is.
Right
okay,
back at you, millions.
No international. Good. Thanks, Michelle. Prettiest girls
right back
ever.
At you. She's stunning.
Okay, so
it's August.
Yeah, so we're running a little bit behind. Sorry. So we're going to get Ronald's.
Get his bio right now because our guest tonight is coming to us and speaking with us all the way from the United Kingdom. So it is about 2 a.m. there. So let's take this. Ronald Kinsella is an identical twin, being an author of numerous books, mainly science fiction, as well as embracing digital art. He has just published a book called The Digital Demon, which investigates strange occurrences, raising several problematic issues and conflicting testimonies. Ronald co-hosts a radio show with his twin on the Paranormal UK Radio Network under Twin Souls, cool name, which is a monthly role. He is currently working on a sequel to The Digital Demon. Please welcome our special guest tonight, Ronald Kinsella, to the Outer Realm.
Hey.
Hello. How are you?
How are you? Hello, Michelle. Hi. Hello, Amelia.
Hi.
Nice to meet
I
you.
just love the way you say my name. You can say that over and over again.
And it begins.
It's that accent.
It's the accent. It is.
Yeah, it is, and it's spelt in the British way. It's not spelt in the Italian way. So it's just perfect, right?
There we go. So how are you?
Yeah, I'm very well, thank you. I'm very, very honored to be on your show and very honored to meet you, Michelle and Amelia.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for being here.
Pleasure.
We know how late it is.
Yeah, we always have to hand it to you guys whenever we have someone from the UK over. We know it's just like lots of coffee and we try to get it through. And, my gosh, I've really been looking forward to this because, first off, the title of your book really got my attention. And I was like, okay, now this is a curiosity. I always like to start off with humble beginnings, of course, and what brought you to this point and why the Digital Demon? Why? Tell us about your journey.
Yeah, well, I must make it clear that when I was younger, I was never interested in any of this subject, nothing. interested me with UFOs. In fact, in the 70s and 80s, it was, as you well know, taboo. You couldn't talk about it. And if people did speak about it, it was done with tongue in cheek. Until, of course, in 1982, Philip and I saw one, a UFO, and it was with our grandmother. We used to stay with them in Tatchbrook Road in London. They had quite a large house. And for holidays, we would spend time with Grandma and Granddad. And it was, I can't remember the exact day. Of course, I was 13. I was bone idle at school, very lazy. Then I didn't do my homework or anything. I mean, I never kept a diary. Boys don't. It's not an excuse. It's just, this is interesting how this happened.
Right.
But it was one summer day in the early afternoon, and we were with Grandma outside the back, always fussing over her. She was lovely, our grandmother, absolutely lovely, as grandmothers mostly are.
Mm-hmm.
And all of a sudden, this silver orb, the size of a football, came over the garden fence and approached us. Now, of course, being logical, you would first assume it to be a balloon. But this was anything but a balloon. It was controlled. The day was breezy. I remember that. And it was controlled. It came straight over towards Grandma and then stopped. Bang. Just stopped above her head. Now, in relation to the size of it, it was the size of a football. It was level with the second bedroom window. That's how high it was, to gauge the height of it. So it wasn't very high. And it just hung there. Now, there was no noise. There was no feeling at the time I can remember. No smells. I've been asked this before. No sounds. It didn't have any markings on it. We had a good look at it, this sphere. And it struck me as being some kind of electronic eye. It was watching us. And what annoyed me about this is that recently when I discussed this, one actual host asked if it had eyelashes. I was very surprised at that because he's now sadly passed, but I thought that was very sarcastic. This was watching us. I had a feeling that it was watching us as like an electronic eye. It was observing us. It was very alien. It was like something from Doctor Who. I mean, here we are in a garden, and you see this thing approaching, and it stops dead in its tracks, but Grandma said. Well, Philip and I said to Grandma, my twin brother and I, Grandma, look at it. And you know, she wasn't fazed. She just turned to look at it. She looked up at it. She said, oh, look. And she said a very bizarre thing. She said, the fairies have come to take a closer look. Oh. Now, she was psychic. We didn't understand really what that was at the time, you know, but it wasn't spoke of. But she looked at it. She wasn't fazed. She wasn't fazed at all.
Has she seen them before?
That,
maybe this wasn't her first kick at the can. Yeah.
Yeah. She has.
It's a good point. It's a good point. But if she had, she never said. So it moved then. It then began to move again towards the house. It reached the second bedroom window. It stopped. Evidently, I suppose it was looking in. Then it went straight up to the third bedroom window. It stopped and looked in. Then it went over the roof where we darted in. And Philip and I went in to see if we could see it crossing the house, which it inevitably did. And we saw it moving off. It got faster and faster and just shot off. So that was the first encounter with them.
So it's like a probe, basically. The same way, you know, that we send probes out, I guess, into space or satellites to try to track information and such.
Yeah, I've put it recently. I mean, this was a long time ago. So you can't put the dots together. You can't join the dots together until much later. It's like a jigsaw puzzle. You start to make some sense of it, but there is no sense, if you see what I mean. But could it have been a Foo Fighter? Now, we've learned of the Foo Fighters that were during the Second World War, for people who may not know, not the group, the Foo Fighters.
That's right.
the Foo Fighters. They basically were orbs of light that pursued aircrafts during battle. They were reported, but hushed up. They thought they were the Germans or the Japanese secret weapons, but they were these balls of light that actually pursued or followed aircrafts.
Mm-hmm.
So I wondered if it was something like that, if this is an ancient thing that's been here for a long time. But that was that incident over and done with, and nothing more was said about it. It was like hushed up. We never forgot it. I do know that Grandma was speaking about this incident on the phone, because I could hear on the phone at night. It was all hush hush, So it was as if it never happened, but it did. It's very strange. Like was said, that was the beginning of it.
Yeah, that's
the second incident that occurred came after this, the big one.
Mm-hmm. I like that. Sounds exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
The big one. Yeah.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you couldn't tell anyone about this. I mean, even your teachers, your father, you couldn't tell anyone because they would think you're balmy, and of course they judge your perception. You imagined it. It's a balloon, an atmospheric distortion. I've even had
tall tales, right? So
I've even had people tell me. That's right. I've even had people tell me that it's military. Well, not being funny, but then in 1982, they would not have had the capacity to create craft of anti-gravity mechanism. And secondly, there's a big problem with that. They wouldn't flaunt their technology above civilian airspace. Why on earth would they be observing a grandmother with her two grandchildren? They just wouldn't do it. There's no point.
Mm-hmm.
So that rules that out. So the big one came that winter. And this gets really freaky. Do you want me to carry on? I'll explain this.
I absolutely do. You have us on the edge of our seats. Don't stop now, Ronald. Okay.
The funny thing is about this is that when the second big one happened, I was so stupid until later in life. I didn't connect them. I never made any connection to the first one or the second one, if there was a connection, but there might well have been. This thing, I gathered, was probably observing its goods before snatching. People call them abductions. I refer to it as a snatching. As Philip Mantle, the famous ufologist in England, states, without consent, you're taken.
Yeah.
Well, what happened was, again, I didn't record it. It was the winter of 1982. We lived in Luton then, up by the football grounds. Victorian houses, very large old buildings. It doesn't mean to say we were rich, but it's just what we had. It was one night in winter. I'll just relay this in a nutshell. I mean, you must understand before I do that, to begin with, when I first came out with this, first in 2012, I felt ridiculous. But I feel a bit more comfortable now because this is it's more open, I would say,
it's more
acceptable. Yes, that's right, where it wasn't then. Anyway, and I was just taken from my bed at night. I was whipped through the loft. I was taken up to the sky. There was something, it was dark. Of course, it was dark outside. It was at nighttime. I'd gone to bed and this wasn't a dream. This wasn't sleep paralysis. We've been through this. The excuses again. And I'm not making it fit just to make a quick buck to sell a story. I wouldn't do that because the taboo it's just been horrendous. I was whipped up and there was something hanging in the sky. Something very dark. I couldn't discern what it was. There was something big hanging above the house. It was very dark. Well, I must have gone into it. See? So the next thing I remembered was I was in this wheelchair, very modern looking wheelchair. It wasn't like anything we had. And immediately I got the impression of a sterile hospital environment, although it wasn't a room we would associate with being like ours. It was very different, very squat. And there was these strange men in this room. Now, we'll get to this in a minute, what I've recently found out about these strange men. There were three standing ahead of me before an operating table. And there was one behind me who I could not see. I couldn't see him. Even the ones who were standing before the operating table were covered from head to toe. They had uniforms on. It was like they were masked. Even their faces were masked. You know the old gas masks in the World War II that people used to wear?
Yes.
They were more modern. They were very modern, but they were wearing them. I couldn't even see their eyes. And they were just, the three of them were standing ahead of this table, and one was behind me. I don't know why, but I just knew there was someone behind me. I guess you just know, don't you? You have that impression there's something behind you, there's someone behind you.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And my instincts served me correct, because there was. I couldn't see him. I tried to turn, but I was partially paralyzed. Isn't that funny, isn't it? It was partially paralyzed. I could hardly move. And again, they'll put this down to sleep paralysis. It isn't. This is not.
No, it's pretty common with abductees, the type of sleep paralysis sort of syndrome.
Yeah, that's right.
So that's right. That's right in line with that's a thing.
Yes.
So,
and when I came to my senses of wondering where I was, knowing that it was some kind of hospital environment, which is, I found out now, common upon abductees, he spoke. The one behind me spoke. I heard his voice, and it was fluent, very fluent, well-spoken English. I would say a middle-aged man, very authoritative. That's the first thing I got from this voice, was extremely authoritative, and his voice was clear-cut. Right. And I will never forget the first sentence he spoke. He said, and these are his exact words, "We are going to perform an operation on you, Ronald." Now, when he said my name, I flinched, because he knew who I was, but I certainly didn't know who he was. I had no idea what these were. They were very strange. Now, the three ahead of me just stood there. They were impassive. They just stood there watching. And I remembered pleading immediately with him. I mean, I was in a state, as you could imagine. I'm paralyzed to a degree. I could move a bit, but that was it. I didn't have any compulsion to get out of the chair. You would have thought you would have done, but something just kept me in it. Anyway, I pleaded with him, and for some strange reason, I got the impression it was to do with the head. This is from me. I can't clarify this, of course. It was to do with the head. They're going to do something, an operation on the head. I just assumed it was the head. I don't know why. And I begged him. You see, I begged him. I kept trying to turn to see him, but I couldn't see him. He said, "No, this is for your own good." Now, the manner in which he said this next, I can't really remember, but it was to do with something like, "It is for your own good. It has to be done." He kept emphasizing the urgency of this operation. So I was powerless. And what he did then, because I started to cry, I was sobbing, he took this. Now, this is very interesting. To my left, there was a utensil rack with instruments on them, very strange instruments. Now, he took one of these instruments in a hand that was gloved. Now, I wished I had had foresight to actually count how many fingers he had on that hand. I didn't count them. Well, you're not going to. You're in shock. You know, someone even asked me, "Did you count his fingers?" No, I haven't time to. You're shocked.
Right. You don't think
what
about
I do
things
remember.
like that. Yeah.
That's right. That's right. But what I do remember, absolutely, is he picked up this instrument, and I had a damn good look at this. It was like a pen, the shape like a pen. It was silver. And on the end, there was a nodule, a round nodule. Now, he took this, and he took my left hand very gently, and he pressed the nodule on the top here of the left hand. Bam! That was it. I went out like a light. Now, before I carry on with this, something very interesting. I was medically ignorant of any procedure. I've never had an operation in my life until recently. Last year, I had an operation by our natural doctors on the prostate, so I had to go under. They put this, interestingly, you know what's fascinating about that? When I had this operation by the natural doctor, I absolutely, truthfully thought, my God, that's where he pressed the nodule, the doctor, the unnatural one, all those years ago. Anyway, I went out like a knight. So I was then, the next thing I remembered, I was ejected from this thing. I was ejected. They'd obviously done what they were, this alleged operation of theirs. I was ejected, shoved out, and I was falling back to the house. I was dropping. Now this time, which is interesting, And I've never forgotten this. This was when I was 13 in 1982. I'm in my 50s now. So I've never forgotten this. Never. As I dropped to the house, I went through the loft again, through the ceiling, and then I was dropped back into my room onto my bed very gently. Now, this is interesting. I felt a bump. That was nasty. That was contact with the mattress. I could feel myself actually touching the mattress as they placed me down, face up. And then it did something very bizarre, a last thing before they cleared off. They projected above my head, and now it took me 30 years to work out what this possibly might be. They really tried to screw me up big time in there. They tried to screw me up. What they did was they projected on the ceiling, and I knew it was a projection, some kind of clever trick, a hologram. And remember, again, in 1982, 3D technology was very crude. If you remember Jaws, and we had those crude glasses on, to make it look 3D, and it was appalling. I mean, they tried, bless them, they tried. But the technology, holographic technology, is virtually rubbish. But this was a hologram to die for. Any film producer would die to have this kind of technology. They projected on the ceiling the huge head of a Cheshire cat. It was wavering. It wasn't moving, but it was wavering. It was like water, but I gather it was the lights moving. Yes, this is where the cartoon comes into it. They're showing me a cartoon. It looked real, but it wasn't. It was the most awfulest thing you could ever imagine. It was grinning down at me. It didn't say anything. It was just staring at me with a huge grin on its face, and then a wavering. I think it was electric blue. Don't hold me to it, but it was. To me, it was like I remember it was electric blue, wavering. It was horrifying, and then it went.
Wow!
And after that. Yeah. After that, it took me a long time to try and work out what this meant. 30 years. When I started later on in life, started to look into the UFO field and to recount my own experiences with them of these strange. Now, another thing strange happened after that. Now, after I used to prop books against the door, put me up through the ceiling. It scarred me as a kid. I prop an old guitar up against the door. It was broken, so that if someone came in, it would make a clatter. This is how desperate I got. I'd shove books up my back. Someone humorously said to weigh me down if I was taken up again. I thought that was charming. I don't know why. I just silently was in absolute shock. But the only person I told that was Philip, my brother, because I trusted him. And we know we don't lie. And this scarred me for years, because the dark, the doors, even though they took me up in the ceiling. But if you'd like me to relay what the Cheshire Cat probably meant,
yes, absolutely. Please.
I mean, I could. This was that he was, I gathered myself, an insurance policy on their part, because they felt that strangely they can anesthetize you prior to an operation, but they don't want to anesthetize you when you're taken up. Why do you have to see them? I've been through this. We'll get to that in a minute. Why do you have to see them? If they're so advanced, why can't they just knock you out prior to abduction or snatching? And save you the bother.
Yeah.
Why? It's as if you have to see them. Now, this
but
is
you
where
got to remember. There are a lot of people who don't remember. They're not allowed to. They get their memories wiped or looped. Or why do you think you got to remember your experience?
Because they were too smart for their own good, I believe. Too smart. The Cheshire Cat and the posh voice, the authoritative voice, two elements that caused me a great deal of contemplation. Because these posh voices and the Cheshire Cat was an insurance policy for them, because I found out 30 years later, when I really thought about this, and I think about this a lot, is it possible, I can't be certain, but it's the only logical one that fits, is that cat was shown to me so that if I go and see a psychologist and tell him I've seen the grinning Cheshire Cat, he'll say, oh, hang on a minute. Wait just 1 minute.
Alice in Wonderland.
You've been down the road. You've seen, I saw the film, incidentally, a few years prior to this, the incident. He will turn around and say, you're screwed up in the head. You're just getting confused. The doctors might be aware of medical facilities, and the cat is just something that is from your subconscious. So the doctors went too far, I think. They were too smart for their own good. So that is the only time I saw them. I have not seen them again. What they did, I cannot say. What is strange is that after that encounter with them, which was bizarre, I had a fit at school. Now, I'm medically sound. There was nothing wrong with me, but I had a fit in geography. Whether it's associated with them or not, I cannot say. But it seems too damn coincidental, doesn't it? I mean, I kept imagining it was the head, but I actually had a fit. I had these pains running up the back of the head. Bang, bang, bang. I collapsed. I actually dropped onto a pupil. And I fitted on the floor. And then they pulled me out of school and asked me, of all things, have you had breakfast? I should think a child fitting on a floor is, suggests it's nothing to do with breakfast. And then they asked me if I'd like to see a doctor. I said, no.
No, I don't like them. No, I'm good.
It terrified me.
Wow.
It absolutely terrified me. So I refused that. And again, like the orb, the sphere that we saw with grandmother in 1982, the summer, I tried to push it to the back of my head, but I couldn't. You see, the thing is with this topic is once you've been down the rabbit hole, you can't get out. Your curiosity, in this case, didn't kill the cat. I'll put a tug in cheek because I was determined to find out what they are. And now, I mean, there's a lot more that's happened, not with the doctors. I've never seen them again. But I have discovered through recently some very good researchers, wonderful people, that one of them suggested that the doctors and the cat are screen memories. The screen memories. So there's something did happen. And we've already also been down the road of, I have been asked before on some shows, which I respect them to have to query it, that, was it a sexual thing, where you abused, that this is like a screen memory? No. I'm sound mind. I'm imaginative. That goes against you in every capacity. I'm imaginative. There's no sexual abuse at all. I was quite happy as a child.
They're just trying to assess you psychologically. They're not alien abductions. Back then, again, it's like the family secret. It's just like being psychic or having paranormal experiences. Don't tell anybody there's something in the house. They're going to think you're crazy. There's a stigma attached to all of that. And I think as now, I mean, the age of the internet, everything else, it's like people are versing themselves. People have camera phones. People can look to the skies and they see things. Society can no longer quiet us.
That's right. Yes, that's right. I mean, and also the nasty thing about them is that they're like shadows. They don't wish to be caught. We may have the latest technology, but they make it damn clever. They are damn clever in avoiding any kind of picture or intervention to try and catch them. They're very smart. I didn't know what the doctors were. The gentleman suggested, the lovely researcher who I need to speak to, suggested that usually what they call the greys are usually responsible for cartoons and for things like the doctors. So I'm not sure. I'm not going to make it fit.
Actually.
Yes, I've heard of them a lot, the greys. Although I've formed a hypothesis about them myself. I'm not too sure what they are. Yes, the reason why I wrote. We've seen UFOs after that every 2 or 3 years. I saw them, not just pinpricks of light. I must make it clear they were right over our heads, but they're so brief and they're so quick. And of course, again, the nasty thing with this subject is that if you tell anyone, they will be sympathetic. I think. I mean, they're not nasty. I've been very fortunate with people. They've been very understanding, but you can see the doubt. It's not. They're not doubting you. They're doubting that it could be atmospheric distortion or military technology, and things like that. So, but
I think it's their own fear. There's a belief that people who do see UFOs regularly are abductees and continue to be abductees. They just don't let you keep the memory. I guess it's a matter of trying to track missing time or loop time or things like that.
Yes.
I mean, I'm also, contactee, abductee, and I think from childhood, now I get memories, and my mother has memories, but now it's like I'm much like yourself. I've just started digging a little bit, just at least trying to verse myself a little bit. You want to learn.
Yes.
I completely understand you.
Michelle, with family, you're right about family, because I'm not the only family member who've seen them. It would be unfair of me to reveal who they are, but they are family members who have seen them as well. And they wish to remain anonymous, and I respect their decision. I'm just the bull in the china shop coming out now and paying the price for it. But it's good. I feel better.
It's usually lineage, though. It usually works its way down.
Yes. I don't know why. It's strange. Very strange. There's something there they're interested in, whatever they are. But the digital demon, I wrote that because I started looking into this. This led to a further wonderful thing that happened. My grandmother died, you see, many years ago. It's all right. We all lose people we love. We're not unique in that. We only have 70 years and 10 if we're lucky longer, but she passed. So I went to see a medium, and I was even, after the doctors and the UFOs, skeptical. I was atrocious. I suppose it's a safeguard, but Philip went to see her first, you see, and I was poking fun at him. This is connected with the medium. I was poking fun at him, saying, a gypsy woman with the gypsies with a crystal ball across my palm of silver. I was terrible. I was a vile person.
I have a crystal ball right behind me, and I am a medium, so I'm laughing at that one. But I bet she had an amazing explanation.
She was incredible. She was, I was poo-pooing because I hadn't seen her yet. He went to see her. But the interesting thing is, when he came back, when Philip returned from seeing the medium, firstly, she had told him that we had contact with these things, these aliens, they call aliens. She wasn't really interested in them, but she said we'd seen them. But the interesting thing about Philip was that when he came back, I could smell youth dew all on him. It was physical youth dew. My grandma used to wear it all the time. And it's Estee Lauder's youth dew. It's older women, with all due respect, older women do prefer youth dew. Then, I suppose they did, but it was all over him. I could physically smell it. And I said to him, what's the medium wearing perfume? He said, no, she's only about 28, 29. And youth dew is not the sort of thing she'd wear, but she wasn't wearing any perfume. I could smell it on him, grandma, all over him. So I went to go and see this medium. I was still ignorant and arrogant, even after all, as I'd explained. So I went to see her, and she was amazing. And she brought through that Philip and I had seen these things for some time, these aliens. Again, she wasn't really interested in them. That did humor me, actually. I didn't say much about it myself to her. I was guarded, but she said, you've seen them. But then she saw us both, Philip and I, when she brought through the clarification I wanted to know. It wasn't just wishy-washy stuff, and I must make this clear now, that I was skeptical, but she'd brought through people who had died exactly how they died, and I didn't even know who they were. She can't even mind read. The family confirmed this afterwards. One of them drowned. And she got his name right as well. She knew who it was, and I didn't know who it was, and it was. She was absolutely amazing. I was an open book to her. So the point of a particular wonderful lady, I shan't call her lady, that sounds too demeaning. How can I put it? Someone very high up. We had a number of letters from this lady, and it's secret. She even brought through the symbol above my head, and she said, you've had, was it 8 or 7 or 8 letters, she said at the time, you've had? I said, my God. She just pulled it all from me. This particular lady, very high up, she showed the symbol, and then she showed the number. And I couldn't believe it. So this goes to show you're dealing with the real McCoy. And I found out afterwards that she'd done work for the FBI. She was part of the Edgar Casey Foundation. She'd done, but of course they won't announce it. Finding murderers and paedophiles and things like that. Record was very superb. And she wanted to do past life regression on us. After when we had the reading past life regression. Now I was dubious about this. Now I'd had my confirmation about them and the people who had passed, but past life regression I was very dubious. But she decided to come over, And she befriended us. Her name was Pearl. And the process of doing this was very complex. It was very almost forensic. She wanted to go through all our likes, dislikes, tastes, because she wanted to see Atlantis. She'd bought through, when she was doing me a reading, Philip and I having been sisters on Atlantis in something called the Golden Era. I mean, I was amused by it, but have heard of Atlantis. We all have. I mean, it's sunk. But something called the Golden Era. She was interested to see if she could see this through a past life regression. So she conducted this past life regression. And it was very hard for me to go under, actually. I was very stubborn. It took me about half an hour after all the going, and nothing was planted. There was no leading you up the garden path. She was very professional, but I did go under. And what I saw ran like a movie. There was no sound, but it ran like a movie. And I was seeing 3 different eras, and they were all death. I don't know why. A lot of people will actually report this now. I found out that when they see that, when they have past life regression, Amelia and Michelle, a lot of them, they see the end of their life, the death. But one of them wasn't. This one was almost like out of this world, and this goes back to them, these supposed or presumed aliens. It's I'll explain what I saw.
Please.
And it all seems to tie up in some strange way. I have a full picture, of course, but it's to do with the reptilians. We went under the final reincarnation, or alleged reincarnation. I will say now, I didn't know at the time. I gather I was in Chichen Itza. I didn't know it at the time. Now, this is extraordinary what happens, how this leads up to what I found out. I didn't know where it was. I was ignorant of history as well, but I was in a temple or quite high up, not massively high up, but there were trees everywhere. I could see the tops of trees, and there was a young girl beside me. I must have been about, I would say about perhaps 20, 22. There's a young girl with me, a bit younger. I knew that was Philip. That was Philip. This female girl was with me in Chichen Itza. This is the last reincarnation episode I saw. And something caught my eye from the distance. There's this thing in the sky coming down to land. And it was what we would call a spaceship. But it looked like a spider. It was silver. It looked like a squat, metallic, huge spider. It was very wide. The legs were very wide. And it was very squat. It was huge. It was coming down, it was dropping behind the trees. So I gathered there was a courtyard there or something. And as I was watching it drop, I then turned to look at my left wrist. I don't know why I was compelled to look at it. And I was wearing a gold disc. Now, it was like, if you think about a wristwatch, it was the strap was like that, but basic. But the gold disc itself was perhaps the size of a tea saucer, or perhaps a bit smaller. I don't know what its function was, but I knew it was connected with the gods who were arriving. Wow. And then I had a flash of their faces. I didn't see anything else. It was very quick. And this was 24, 25 years ago. I had this done. I've never had it done again. So I documented everything. And I'm an artist, as you know, an artist as well. So I illustrated them. And it's a good job I did, and recorded every detail so I won't forget. Later on, I would write the book on it, the first one in 2012. But they were reptilian, the faces of them. Now, what's interesting about this is that I would have passed it up had my mother not returned from a trip she'd gone to Chichen Itza, and she took lots of photographs, which are now in my book, The Digital Demon. I've included them. And she showed me this place, and I wouldn't say it was an immediate recognition of it. I mean, I don't think any of us have that, but there seemed to be some kind of familiarity. And when I saw that they worshipped the feathered serpent, Kulkukan, or Kulkukan, however you pronounce it.
That's right, yes.
I was immediately interested, and I thought back to the past life regression I had. And I looked at this and I thought, my God, this looks similar. And then I found out that the Mayans, Kulkukan, their ethereal, allegedly ethereal, feathered serpent god, I started digging myself. I mean, I haven't been to Chichen Itza. I can't afford to go there at the moment, but I made it one of my missions to go there because there's a lot of research to be done. Is I found out, of course, El Castillo, the temple of him, the serpent temple, where at the 2 equinoxes during the year, it creates a light show, doesn't it, down the staircase of the illusion of the serpent.
It's quite spectacular. I think you can actually catch it on YouTube even.
Yep. And then I went further and looked at the blood sports they used to have. I mean, they used to like their beheadings and the hearts being taken out in honor. That's right. You've got it. And the sports piets or piets, however they pronounce it. The rubber ball where they've got to bounce it in the courts and get it through a stone ring. They've got to get the ball through a stone ring using their elbows, knees, and thighs. They weren't allowed to use their hands to drive this ball through. I think there was a team of 6 on each. Well, the actual stone ring that hangs on the walls of the court where they have to drive this ball through show the serpent entwined around eyes. Now, this is what my mother took. So I'm looking at it and thinking, well, that's ownership of the serpent. The serpents were entwined around the players. I think there were 6 players. So, and then the winning captain, there was always confusion at the time. I thought it was a loser, but it is actually the winning captain was beheaded as it stands in honor of winning the game, and also it was a great privilege to be sacrificed for your gods. Now, could this Kukulkan have been present? I've developed an interest in him, you see. I did some other research, and the photographs which I couldn't use because they're copyrighted and my mother didn't take them, was one of the serpent with a man's head appearing out of his mouth. And they actually suggested on there that he's actually rising out of the serpent, and I'm thinking, no, he's being eaten by the serpent. Snakes even eat things back to front. So, perhaps a taste for human flesh, I don't know. It sounds ridiculous, but they will tell you, the directors of antiquity will absolutely vehemently deny any form of extraterrestrial or interplanetary contact.
You'll get all kinds of resistance there.
Oh, yes, you will, because but you see, this is where it gets really nasty. Now, I'm not denying the archaeologists or their expertise in language. Believe they want to hide from public. I think Graham Hancock, the wonderful researcher, was even called I believe he was called a pseudo-scientist for his incredible research into the pyramids.
He does really good stuff. Yes.
So God help anyone for questioning. Yep.
But that goes
God
everywhere.
help anyone for questioning the testimony of scholars.
Please.
But this is the problem with history. No one can be assured. No one can be assured that it can't be proved. We're actually believing the testimony of experts, but if the experts have their own narrative, which we're following, so, who are we to believe? It is quite possible, unlike my grandfather, that they had a visitor, an ancient alien, which I quite like the word, your wonderful program that you run, an ancient alien Kukulkan. I believe he was real. And I also, in my book, The Digital Demon, I made reference to that. I referred to him as a feathered serpent. Is it possible, but that was used symbolically, that feathers are of flight? And of course, the Mayans, when they clapped eyes on them and they welcomed them, they associated them as birds because they could fly, so henceforth feathered serpent. It goes on and on.
It's very, all you've got to do is go back to the ancient Sumerians as well, the Anunnaki. All of that is they show you pretty much like a reptilian individual.
Yes.
It goes really far back. But, academically speaking, there's a lot of things right now that are being discovered that the good old boys in archaeology don't want to admit. All you've got to do is, when they say, I'll use this example, with one of our guests, Dr. Kathleen Ann Ball, they tell you Christopher Columbus came and discovered America, in the 1400s. Meanwhile, she's got proof in a cave of the Knights Templar being there 200 years prior.
Yes.
And the Vikings now, it's just been discovered that they were there. And that's going back even another, 400 or, 600 years. Like they were there the 800s. Right. They can fight it all they want. But technology, allows us to move forward with new discoveries that are wiping out some of that. And eventually they're going to have to, they're just going to have to give.
So we're going to have to rethink everything again. Yes, that's right. It's as Amelia, as you were saying, sorry, you're going to say something there.
No, it's okay. I was going to say they're not going to rewrite history because it costs too much money. It comes down to that. No one really knows who was here when. It's just Christopher Columbus had an audience and quite the historical family connection. And that's why his was put out there, basically. Well, if the Templars had made it out there in public, they would have been listed as first to touch, North America. So it was just who you know, even back then, 1492, who you knew.
I mean, we're not knocking any of them. I mean, they are brilliant people. The archaeologists are, and they have earned their stripes. But for goodness' sake, you have to. Times. That's right, and you have to appreciate that.
They're very stuck in their ways, so.
Yeah, you have to. Any new narrative that comes along, they will dismiss it or destroy it. And of course, aliens would be laughable. They love that one because
that's a sore spot. With them, they definitely don't believe in ancient aliens. I mean, for the most part, there are some that do. They do go public with it, but there are some that are a little bit more staunch and they don't want to explore it at all. But there's evidence in a lot of monoliths and caves, and you can look at ancient paintings, religious paintings, and you will see UFOs within the painting. You clearly see one, Virgin Mary holding baby Jesus with a UFO in the sky that was done in like the 1500s. I'm sorry, people, it's there. It's always been there. You just need to look at it and acknowledge it for what it is. Right?
Yes.
So Amelia, did you have something to say?
There's a comment. Sorry, there's a comment in Facebook, and this is why it's taking me a little bit longer to get to it. Sorry, William Lester says, my background is in anthropology, and I can tell you people in the field know it's true, but there's a brick wall with a force field about this subject. Thank you for your comment, William. Yes.
Very nice. Yeah. Thank you. There's another interesting angle to this as I delved into the UFO phenomenon. Is the fact of the Roswell ship. Now, I know it's controversial, but everything is. But I do personally believe something very exotic crashed there. The problem was this. I mean, we know it happened because the military did actually first announce that they had captured a flying disc to then retract it, you see. Because I think they believed that it would help with matters of secrecy and also the controversy of such a thing. And they probably couldn't believe what they had in their possession. And of course, it was the linchpin of all UFOs, a blueprint of what was to follow the secrecy and covering it up. But what I couldn't work out, and I do believe it did crash there, something very extraordinary crashed there. I've always maintained that. What I couldn't understand, though, and we read this testimony from so many people, is that it was allegedly struck by lightning or there was a malfunction and it crashed. Now, for me, that didn't quite add up. If it had been interstellar, if they'd come from outer space or interdimensional, we have to consider as well, or underwater, it traveled along at such a speed and it did crash. But I was wondering, and now I'm proud of myself of this. I hope I've got no ego, but I published this in Digital Demon prior to Jack Valet, who's wonderful anyway. But I think we're thinking along the same lines because my book came out in March and I think his new one came out in May. I think I might be wrong, but sometime afterwards, not long. I had thought about this, and he's been thinking about it, about the crash. Now, it just seemed too fantastic that Mother Nature could bring down such an incredible piece of technology. If they'd traversed the great cosmos or interdimensional travel, I hardly think they'd be overpowered by Mother Nature. But it seemed they were, or that might be the illusion we were given. Is it possible that it was deliberately downed? that it was a Trojan horse. Now, I have referred to it as a Trojan horse. Jacques Vallée has referred to it as a gift. I don't think a gift as such, but I might be wrong. I mean, he's the expert. I mean, he's a man who's very knowledgeable. But I trust my gut feeling. You see, it was meant to be. What if? I'm not saying it was, but what if it was meant to be down by something? And if so, why? Well, it would be evident for technological gain. They couldn't crash it in a capital city because it would be too obvious. So they crashed it somewhere remote where it would be spotted and the military would inevitably retrieve it. You know, so these sort of things with the aliens has opened up doors for me of contemplation. When I was at school, it angered me, and I think most of us can vouch for this. It's like when you're there and you learn about the universe, they talk about it. You know, they actually did state it started with a big bang. Like, hold on a minute, a big bang? Well, what caused the big bang? You don't question, it just happened. Nothing just happens. There must be cause and effect. And if prior to that, what we're in, what on earth are we in? Are we in a bubble, a vacuum? Is it infinity? What was there before?
Is it a matrix? Are we living in a simulation?
We don't know. That's quite true. Yes, we don't know. See, they don't know. So how on earth can they contest rational-minded people with not only UFOs, but historical events, as the lovely gentleman has confirmed as well, in archaeology, you know, things that are quietened to follow a preferred narrative. You see, we've had one hell of a battle, haven't we, all of us? We've had one hell of a battle trying to scratch our heads and work out what exactly is going on.
No, I agree. Yeah. I don't know. What's your take then on it? Do you think that, you know, benign, not benign, you know, do you think there's some people like even Stephen Hawking sort of said, like, don't put this message out into space. You're going to give the sign that, you know, weakness on our part, that we're easy to take over, while you have others who are like, no, let's just go out. And, you know, ET allegedly, you know, communicated back a message to one of our messages, like, just, you know.
Yes, I mean, I think when you look at space, it's a lot of it first, and I'm not being sarcastic, there's a lot of it. But when you look at the planets, most of them are dead. It's as if, you know, they say they've discovered a planet 100 million light years away or whatever that might be Earth-like, but everything surrounding us is dead. And it's as if sometimes I get the feeling or thought that we weren't meant to leave this realm, but I believe we should. It's our inherent right. It's man's right and woman's right to expand. But, you know, they're talking about, and it's very clever of them, and they're very smart men, but they're talking about colonizing Mars. But Mars has no atmosphere. It's poisonous to us.
Planet.
I mean, there might be some water on it and ice caps and things like that. But, you know, to land man on Mars is madness at the moment. Unless we, of course, we had warp drive, you know, there's ships like Star Trek, then it would be easier because they could account for more mass and, you know, more comfort, and materials could be transported rather quickly. But we just don't have it. So you look at space and it's dead, virtually. Not everything. Our sector, our universe is dead. And this got me thinking about, you know, are we prisoners here? And it you know, the amount of energy used to try and leave Earth and try and search for life elsewhere or habitable expansion, you know, it just gets you thinking. And then it moves on from that to, you know, are these aliens from outer space, or are they interdimensional, or from, I've heard rumor of Antarctica. It's something we cannot rule out. We don't know. Are
they already here?
Yes, that's right. That's right. It's a fascinating.
Our mountains.
Yes. As to them being benevolent or not, I don't know. I mean, I take a rather, and I don't mind stating this, I take a rather a negative approach to the my own views. That's not tainting them all with the same brush. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't do that. But from my own experiences, because it seems to me that something that acts like shadows or tries to cover itself doesn't seem very good. You know, they cover it. I mean,
yeah. Why you have to be so sneaky? Why can't you just come out and do it?
Yes, and taking you, arresting you without consent.
Right.
I mean, it doesn't. There's something wrong there, and the Greys as well. I've been thinking about them. Now, is it possible this Roswell ship, which I do believe crashed, I believe something exotic was there. Is it possible? Excuse me. Is it possible that these were manufactured? The crew, I believe there was crew, were manufactured or assembled or cloned by something greater. I just see, every time I hear of the Greys, I keep saying to myself, and I trust my instincts, they're real. Of course they are. They're a reality. But is this what we're really looking at? Are these the Royal McCoy? I don't think so. I don't think we've seen their true faces. These things are evidently agents for them, or manufactured or assembled or cloned for them. And of course it would make sense. We send probes to Mars to act as our eyes and ears. A much more advanced force could build them and send them, dispatch them to leave their kingdom or realm.
The theory. You might not be wrong.
It's speculation, but it's something to consider. This is what I love to do. I love to speculate on all aspects. I've been arrogant, assuming myself there cannot be a federation. I might well be wrong, and I'll deserve a slap in the face. I've been arrogant in stating. Yeah, I mean, time travel. Let's look at this about where they might possibly come from.
Well, that's a whole other show, but okay.
Yeah,
no,
people have suggested they come from the future. People suggest they come from the future. Well, if they're
us in the future.
Yes, but for sightseeing, I wouldn't argue with that. But to collect samples for DNA, I would contest, because logically speaking, and I thought about this, with all due respect, we're soiled. They would pick a point in time when we are medically sound, as medicine would advance, as with technology. They would pick a point in time if they were desperate for some kind of modern Noah's Ark, or if they wished to resurrect their dying race or whatever. They would pick a point when we are medically sound. Our DNA was absolutely perfect. They won't pick now. I mean, it's sad to think that we still have cancer, COVID, disease after disease. You see where I'm going with it.
Oh, for sure. Amelia, do you have a quick question? And then we'll just continue on.
You. Zach Mann, hey Zach, is in the chat room with us as always. One of our favorite.
Our regulars. He's like a third host.
He is a third host. He has a question for you, Ronald. He said, with the U.S. government releasing evidence of UFOs, what is your position on the recent reports?
It wasn't evidence of UFOs at all. I believe the paper was a sham. Yeah, and they only loosely gave reference to UFOs at the very end, as if, what if? So yeah, there's no, to be, I am never disrespectful, but to me it was an insult. They know more than they're letting on. They're not going to ever let this out. They're hiding it, and they're coveting. So that's my take on that.
Thank you. Right. Thank you for the question. William Lester has a comment. He said, I think they know Earth's history. They know that the first one of them to come down the ramp will be riddled with bullets. Hi, Wayne. Wayne Mellows has a question. Okay. Ronald, may I ask a personal question? Don't feel obligated to answer if you feel uncomfortable, but did you ever have a CAT scan on your head to see if there was anything foreign in there? Great question. Thanks, Wayne.
That's a good question.
No, and that's a good question, and I'll answer. I've had this before. I have had no CAT scan done, not on the brain. Unless you're rich or private, and there was a problem, they would look. But if you just can't walk into a hospital and tell them that you might have been intervened by aliens. They're not going to do it. No. They will not do it. And believe me, they won't. It's not a cheap way of getting out of it. It just... They won't do it unless, of course, there is a problem, So no, I have not.
Okay, there we go. Wow. Getting back briefly to the whole, are they us in the future. I think there are speculations that there are hybrids that, this is part of what they're doing, is creating a hybrid race of people between, this is why they'll follow a line of maybe of a family. There's whatever it is you're looking for. Maybe it's being compatible. If that is true, then maybe it's a slow evolution to that point. What are your thoughts on that?
Quite possible. I mean, absolutely. We have to. You see, I've been arrogant in the past, and I admit it. I've been arrogant, but we have to consider every aspect of it, because really, I mean, we've got, no one has any proof, but we have seen them. They are real. They are real. So it's good. It's good to speculate, as you said. It could well be they're building hybrids. They must be, because I've heard of the encounters people have had, the women, with what they do to them, and it's horrendous. So there's some reason for it. Just what we don't know, but absolutely possible. Yes, Michelle, I agree with you completely. It might be that they are producing a new genus, a new race that perhaps will walk alongside them. And of course, it's interesting you should say that, because the missing link, that was an upgrade, wasn't it? They won't admit it. That was an upgrade. So perhaps
negative blood type.
Yes, so as they're doing it, they've picked a point in time where a new agenda will be unleashed, and there'll be another hike in the evolutionary scale by manipulating DNA, by enhancing it, creating superior beings that are more efficient than we are. It's something to consider. I agree.
I agree as well. Let's face it. I think if they wanted to destroy us, they more than have the capability to do it, especially in our more primitive times. Like we're a little bit more advanced now. We have a little bit more technology. We can see them coming, but it wasn't always the case.
No, those are even the nuclear toys to them. They're toys. They could, you're right, they could wipe us out. I mean, all they'd have to do is introduce an efficient germ, an efficient thing that will kill us off instantly. They don't. They don't want us dead. That might be quite an alarming thing when you think about they don't want us dead. So why?
So what is the purpose then?
Is it
what
good
is
or
the
bad?
purpose? That they don't want to peck us off just yet anyway. So what's the purpose? What's the agenda? Because there's more than just the Greys. I mean, there's reports, like you say, the reptilians. I'm real curious about the reptilians. If you were regressed and they, there was reptilians within your surroundings, they're supposed to be, they got longevity. These things, like
I don't know about them.
Different than Earth years, sort of thing. So, have you had any experiences with them? Do you think?
I don't know. I can't recall it if I had. The Kukulkan was the ancient one I saw in a past life regression, but of course, as I said,
it just shows that you were there and aware.
Quite possible. I mean, I can't say for certain, but it ran like a film. And the build-up, the emphasis of this, as I said, with my mother going there, and I had no knowledge of it, to bring them back, and then it tied up, or seemed to tie up, was incredible.
Right. No, I agree.
I might well have seen him. I mean, I'm not saying I have, but it made me think, to suggest that it's ignorant to actually assume that they were just idolizing an ethereal god, when in actual fact he might well have been corporeal. He might well have been a deity in his true sense. And I don't think he would have been horrible. I think he would have taught them things. He would have been interested in them with his kin. I don't think they went there to kill him. I think he would have probably taught them things. It's possible he would have done that. I liken him to their type of David Attenborough.
Right. Okay, why not?
It might well have been like their version of David Attenborough. The Kukulkan, anyway.
Amelia.
Thank you. There's another question, William Lester. Consider, what would we do if we could do interstellar travel?
Ooh, they're about ready to find that out. Everybody's getting on the bandwagon with that.
Well, Musk won that one. Bezos is a little pissed off.
It'll be nice when they actually do develop warp drives.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. It'll be wonderful if we could reach beyond the speed of light, but it's going to take us a long time, I think. But we are capable of doing it. There's the one thing about us humans, which I admire, is we won't give up. We're resilient. That's probably a clue about these aliens. They probably admire our resilience. We get knocked down, we pick ourselves back up. We get the people and countries being nuked by atomic energy and weapons. They get back up and fight. And that's the good thing about us. We've got a good fighting spirit.
We do. We do.
I believe we are already doing all kinds of travel. We aren't told about it. I believe the governments are already going through all kinds of whatever black holes, wormholes, or anything.
Yeah.
Exactly. I believe it's been going on for many decades. I don't believe that it was just something that just happened, especially when we're so far behind in technology and the interaction that they have. And for those who believe that aliens walk amongst us or extraterrestrials walk amongst us and always have, you would have to be kind of ignorant to say that they didn't have any interaction or collaboration with them. So that's just my opinion.
Yes, time travel interests me. Actually, I do delve into that in my book, because I kept thinking as well, if they developed if they developed the first time machine, will be very crude, but we've got to think about this. And I kept thinking, what kind of future would there be? It depends where they throw it out. It's got to be thrown out, you see, first of all, I would imagine. I put it down to my analogy of a pebble and stream. Like, let's just say you're standing beside a stream and you toss a pebble up and you watch it drop into the water and it creates a ripple. In order to recreate that, you would have to throw it exactly the same direction, the same pressure, everything, for it to land in the same spot to create the same ripple. That's time travel. That's the accuracy they would need, the excruciating accuracy they would be required to have in order to reach that same spot again. So if you think about the future, tomorrow or the next minute, there's millions of variables that are not set. They're not set. So what kind of future are we looking at every time you throw that time machine out?
That's just it. You're looking at paradoxes. You're looking at
that's right.
Butterfly effect. You're looking at,
You've got it.
Just, yeah. Yes.
You've got it.
Yeah. That's
the complexities of time travel, the complexities of it. No, people, when they speak about it, it's like you just flick of a switch and it's done. I wouldn't imagine that it would be as easy as that. And also, you're right, Michelle. What you said is the parallel worlds. Would it open up a completely new paradox where you develop one of you, or two of you, or three of you? Every time you push yourself out, you have to think about it. When you push yourself out and you go again. Yeah,
right.
I don't know.
You go back in time, shoot your grandfather. You got nothing to come back to. For example,
that is interesting. But that's interesting. And whoever conceived that or thought of it needs a medal, because that's quite a valid point. If you did that, if you could do that, it would then, as you said again, like sliding doors, it would create a whole new conclusion.
Effect. Yeah,
that's right.
True.
So it will change and change and change. It will be
for every action. There is a reaction. People don't realize there's all these different types of paradoxes that you need to really be careful with. So it is fascinating, for sure.
Yes, it is. I mean, we don't have any answers. Speculation.
We don't have a lot of answers to a lot of things, but one thing that there is speculation on with extraterrestrials is that if they have the capability of coming from the future, for example, which is believed, especially in this discussion, is potentially a thing, then that tells me that they know exactly where they want to be. They know what's going to happen. Are they maybe trying to evolve our race because we are going to wipe ourselves out? I mean, let's face it, it's not the first time the planet wipes itself out. It keeps happening.
It's hard to say. I mean, you mean to actually create a modern day Noah's Ark? I don't know. I couldn't say. I mean, time travel, I don't know. I mean, it's quite possible. As I said, I won't denounce anything. It would be ignorant of me to do that, because I would be no different from the archaeologists who deny that there could be star visitors. So I don't know. I've never really, I've not given much thought to time travel. I have about the analogy of the pebble and stream, but as for the aliens, I wouldn't know. But it is a distinct possibility. You know, we can't rule that out. It's you see, this is wonderful. The whole thing is, everything is, you know, it's what if. And I like that, because this is what's caused the enigma. Nobody knows, but we do need opinions. It's when people, which really annoys me, is when they stuck on a hypothesis and they won't move. They're adamant it's that, and it can only be that. They are wrong. They're not only wrong, they're foolish to adopt such a principle, because we don't know. I don't know what they are. I could never say what they are. I've speculated whether they could be even fallen angels, the reptilians of the ancient times, whether they actually, hell is actually a dimension.
Yes.
The ancients were referring to the hell as being the underworld. Well, could the underworld, in our new terminology of it, be a dimensional? They're locked or sealed in. And this goes on to CERN as well, doesn't it? The 666, the symbolism, the discrete, or I would say it's hardly discrete, the symbolism of the mark of the beast, you know, and Shivra, the destroyer, the statue they have, the destroyer of worlds, they will tell you it's just symbolic, but I don't believe that.
Oh, here's symbolic. The Vatican has a giant telescope they call Lucifer.
That's right, the Vatican, yes.
I'm just saying.
Quite ironic, isn't it?
I think that's tongue-in-cheek too, though.
I know, but still,
it's tongue-in-cheek because their belief system is that you're not supposed to look outside of God, so that's why they call it Lucifer.
I know, but I'm just saying, like there's a lot of little things out there, but the extremists, you know, the conspiracy theorists, you know, there's a theory, you know, that our planet is it's like it's a zoo. It's just we people or other beings get dropped off here. You look at all the cryptids that we have. Are they all prehistoric, or, you know, just look at, let's say, Bigfoot, which they say no, it could be interdimensional, could be extraterrestrial. Like, maybe there's a lot of planets out there. We're just a little grain of sand on a very big beach. Are we all coming together because, I mean, mind you, there are many planets just like Earth. So what is it about here that we're such a mixture of things, and some of it is just so elusive?
There's the Bigfoot, yes, I believe that, absolutely, and werewolves and things. I think they have been seen. You see, this comes from the ancients. You see it, doesn't it? Yes. So there must be some credibility to it. But the one thing that I did look into is the darker aspects was the missing 411 of the national parks, but the rangers discovering the most bizarre deaths of people that go missing in your great country. You know, your states. It's shocking. I mean, and some even refer to it as being carried off by Bigfoot or a huge bear or these aliens. I think you know, that reminds me of your wonderful Stephen King's It. You know, there's a force that can change shape, you know, that can manifest into different things.
That would be extraterrestrial. Like, technically, reptilians can project how they want you to see them.
Right.
There are some that can actually shapeshift, or they just project what they want you to see. Is that sort of is that the situation with Stephen King? I swear some of these authors, I always say Gene Roddenberry was so far ahead of his time. I'm sure he was a contactee.
He's in circle.
Right? You know, now when you think back to some Star Trek episodes, you're like, you know what? That man knew something.
Gene Roddenberry, he sat in circle, didn't he? He actually sat in circle. It's rumored that he did.
It's true. It's true.
This is interesting. I just want to add that what's very interesting is also, are these all connected with the psyche? You know, because when my grandmother had passed, so we went to see a medium, we started fooling around with, not irresponsibly, but we started fooling around with a Ouija board. And do you know what's funny about that? And this is what I make reference to as well. What's really odd about that is when we use that, the UFO sightings increased.
Yeah. You open yourself up.
Yeah.
You're opening
there's something strange.
Doors. You know what I find with you're dealing with communications, when you're dealing with something like a board or a communication device, you really do have to blank your mind, because if you're looking for a certain answer, and let's face it, most of the time you're going to answer questions, that you probably know the answer to, but you can put a number in your head. I've experimented with that. You can put a number in your head and it will tell you that number. It just picks up what's in your mind. Now, it's a belief system, too, that all you need to do if you want to see ET is just go out and telepathically put it out there, and you will. So maybe you're onto something, with the whole psyche thing.
I probably am not the first to actually state that. There's a lot of clever people out there. But what was interesting when you said about the board, we did an experiment because we won't have nonsense. Philip and I, we had a friend with us, Susan, and we performed. This is when we first used it. We didn't have a board, so we just stuck letters on the table, you do,
right?
And used the glass of the planchette. The trouble is, every time we moved our hands, the paper kept falling off, so we kept putting it back on. But what's interesting, it started to speak to us, this thing, this entity or whatever it was, and I didn't trust it. And I said, because we had a very good friend with us, Susan, who is, I have to say, very intelligent, on the ball. She won't have nonsense. And she didn't have her hands anywhere near the board. She was just watching. And I said, it was spelling something out. And I said, I've had enough of this. I said, Susan, do me a favor. Go out there, take a pen and paper. This actually happened. I said, write something down and put it in your pocket and come back in. Well, I think she got the gist of what I was doing. So she went out. She came back in. We reset the board. And I said, right. Addressing the board, I said, I want you to tell me what she's written. And I didn't realize how arrogant I was at the time, but I did not want nonsense. And this confirms what you say, Michelle, is that it spelled trickery first. And I said, no, if you're in our position, you would be requesting the same thing. I want to know what she's written on that bit of paper in her pocket, because I don't even know what it is. And then it moved to DARTHMAUL. Now, the wonderful George Lucas had just brought out one of his new Star Wars films. I think it was The Phantom Menace.
Right.
And there was a character in there who was Darth Maul. Darth Maul.
Right.
That's right. Well, Susan went white. She pulled the paper out of her pocket and showed us it. It said Darth Maul.
But was she thinking it when you asked what is on the piece of paper? Did it pick up on her thought when she's saying Darth Maul, right?
Don't know.
So we have to do a station ID real quick.
Yeah, I mean, you're quite right. Absolutely. Yeah. But I don't know. But whatever it was extraordinary because it's using some kind of psychic ability.
Telepathic ability.
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't think it could read the paper, but it could obviously read minds. Yes.
Read the mind. Amelia, do you want to do that sponsor ID, please?
Thank you so much. You are listening to The Outer Realm with Michelle DeRoche and myself, Amelia Pisano, and our wonderful guest tonight, special guest, Ronald Kinsella, all the way from the UK. Very early in the morning for him, by the way. Thank you for being here with us tonight. If you are in New Orleans, you are listening to us live on 105.3 FM radio, and we love you, New Orleans. We are UFO gods and extraterrestrials. I got it this time, had to write it down. And UFO Paranormal Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio and United Public Radio, UPRNTalkRadio.com. Tonight's episode and every episode is fully sponsored by the great people at Folgers Coffee. Thank you so much, Folgers. We love you. Always.
There was a comment I just want to make mention to you, and it was on Facebook. William says he's got a travel concept to share with you. May he reach out to you by email if you're comfortable blurting out your email. Just before it goes up in the stream, I just caught it last
Of course. Minute. That's fine. That's fine.
Okay.
That's very kind. Thank you.
Okay.
I would respond to that. Yeah, of course.
Okay. So you'll have to give your email. So, it's in the chat.
Are you on Facebook, Ron?
Oh, on the chat. Yep. I am. Yes, I'm actually under Ronald James Kinsella.
There you go.
Can he not send me? Can he not send me it privately?
Yeah, he could.
I'm open.
Yeah, he could.
My Facebook is my Facebook is under Ronald James Kinsella. That's KINSELLA. Ronald James Kinsella, and he'll notice it on there. There's a picture of me on there. So, okay, thank you very much. Yes, that would be better. I think private. Just DM me or PM me or what they call it.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Send a private message.
Thank you.
Be the easiest way, I would imagine.
Yeah, perfect. And hi, Mike. Thank you for joining us. Dolly, God, everybody's party's all here now. Gang's all together. So, okay. So, how long do you think they've all been here? How long, in your opinion, do you think that they've been here?
My own opinion, yes.
Yeah.
I would say my own opinion. I wouldn't know, because there are scholars out there who actually do believe in them, who probably have dug and dug. I would say very long time, ancient times.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Been here for a long time. But whether they were before the dinosaurs or that, I don't know. But certainly they're here for a very long time.
And
so
do you think they're on a peace mission?
Sorry about that. It's quite a question I can't answer.
Right.
Peace
so we
mission.
Don't know. What do you think? No. Do you think they have motives aside from potentially trying to maybe, have a hybrid race, or having, are they trying to teach us? Are they trying to, I would think if they wanted to take over, they would have done that. So I tend to lean to, there are people who have very benign experiences. Not all experiences are harsh. Some people have really good experiences with them, but there are so many different species also, right? So what are your thoughts?
It's just a case of the good, the bad, and the ugly. I think. We look at the cattle mutilations as well, and Skinwalker Ranch, and Bempton, which Paul Sinclair does a lot of work with, the darker aspects. So I think it is a case of the good, the bad, and the ugly. You have the good ones, and the bad ones, and the ugly ones. So I think that is like us. You have the good, the bad, the ugly. You have good people, you have bad people. You have monsters that are us. People like monsters that would shoot you without a care in the world. So I think it's a combination. I think. You see, I label the doctors. I don't label them evil or bad. It's just that how dare they take me without consent? And maybe
they were trying to save your life.
It's possible they could have fixed something. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe there was something they foresaw coming, and they prevented that. There are cases, of ET basically altering people, but for the good.
I have thought about whether it could have been a problem I had, and they corrected it. The point is, what I can't work out, if they're so advanced, this is again, it comes down to
being so sneaky, yeah.
And also, why can't they just, if they could knock me out prior to an alleged operation, why couldn't they just knock me out prior to being snatched and save all the bother? Did they want me to see them? Why do they want you to see them?
Maybe they felt you were ready for it. I think when you don't see them, it's because they feel you're not ready for it. Subconsciously. Maybe deep down they're like, no, you're not ready for this. Maybe they feel, no, you know what? We think you're ready for it. They had your theory of the insurance policy could very well be just in case,
Yes, that was very smart. I must give them that. And of course, they didn't hurt me. So, if this has been going on, I did state to Sir Philip, my brother, I did state that, they've never harmed us. So it could be, well, as you agree, Michelle, and I would imagine Amelia as well, that it's a case of you have the good ones and the bad ones.
Absolutely, in any race, really. And I honestly believe, I wanted to say this earlier, when you saw the Cheshire Cat on your ceiling and you had said that you had seen the film not too long prior to that image, I honestly believe, being a medium, we're always looking at signs for everything. And I believe that was a sign just stating that they were aware and they were with you, kind of thing. And I believe that it was trying to give you comfort, not fear.
Okay, thank you. I mean, as I said, I don't know.
That could be
I don't
too.
know. I mean,
Yeah.
that might be possible. Yes, that's quite possible.
Yeah.
It could
I'm
be.
just looking at it as a perspective of a medium. That would be a sign, and those signs, that's how they relate.
I guess you would depend on what you were feeling when you saw the cat in the movie. Did you fear it, or did you kind of laugh and go, "Oh wow, this is all right"? Maybe they're just trying to say, "Hey."
Significant moment.
We
were there. We watched that.
That's a good question, actually. Yeah, it's a good question. Actually,
we were there. We've been with you, and we haven't hurt you, so we're not going to hurt you now.
Mm-hmm.
It's all in the perspective of it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, as I said, I'm open to any kind. I mean, I won't denounce anything because it's just when you look at it, it's very interesting, isn't it? And those are very interesting answers you've come up with, or possible scenarios that it could be possible that that's what it is. Because I'm not negative myself, but guarded more. I think perhaps they know me too well.
Okay, it's healthy.
Yeah,
but
perhaps
they're telepathic.
they themselves know that.
They know what's in your subconscious.
Right? Straight and narrow. I don't know.
I think they do.
Yeah, I think they do. Well, I think through the experiments, I think something, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
that's right. I mean,
just by
this led to something. But I did have an insight. Now, when I saw this medium, all those years ago, and Philip is a medium himself. He was told he was going to be doing this, and he's doing it. He denied it, but he's doing it now. My twin brother. But I'm told I've got the gift, but I haven't. You see, I sat in circle for 4 years, and I couldn't bring anything through. But Pearl did say to me that it would open up in my 40s. Well, it didn't, because it's opened up in my 50s, because certain things have happened to confirm that there's something, but mine is sporadic, and it's in the form of pictures. Now, this might interest you both. It's the fact that, one, it started with a wonderful chap who's in New York, who I was speaking to, and as I was just talking to him, I couldn't see him. It was preparing for radio. I just kept seeing this sand in my head. Just kept seeing this sand. I don't know why. I nearly passed it up. This wasn't so long ago. And I said, William, I said, why am I seeing this sand? And he didn't know. And thankfully, he didn't until the Monday when I got home, and he'd sent me some photographs. He'd never worked with it before, and he showed me this sand everywhere. So that was the first kick-starting. I think, I've seen the future. I wouldn't have thought it was. I wouldn't have known it was the future. But somehow I didn't. I wouldn't even know what the sand meant, but it was there, and he confirmed it. So then these things started to happen, only a few, and one of them was of the greys, or what we call the greys. It was a vision I had of them. These are waking things. There's no sound. It's just, I can't explain. It's like pictures and sensations. It's like, and it's brief. It's like a quick flash, but it's not. No,
some people are pictures, some people
quick.
are words. Yeah.
But I saw them, and this is interesting as well, because I've written this in my book, The Digital Demon. It's the fact it's the last chapter, and it's called The Vision, because Philip and I actually, well, from what I can tell, and if it's correct, we actually get to meet them. Well, two of them anyway, because this vision, what it was very clever. As I'm walking along working, I'm seeing this vision over my preferable view. That's how it works, I suppose. And it's like we're near these woods, and there's all this grey. It's all grey. All of it's grey. It's a grey day.
Right.
And there's this mist, all this grey going around these trees, and we stop in the car. We get out the car, and we have to go through these trees. I don't know why. This is the vision I had. Wow. So we go in there, and like the eye of a hurricane or the eye of a storm, it's clear. And when I look up, there's a triangular ship, interestingly. It's turning round slowly. It's above the treetops. It's turning round. And from it, dropping down, floating down, rather, are two greys. And it ends. So then I thought about the grey. And I thought, my God, the greys, the grey day, the greys. There was no insight. Nothing.
Symbolism, colors.
Yeah, it could be symbolism. I put it down to a meeting. I'm hoping I will, because I want to ask them a few things. Whether they'd answer or not, it doesn't matter. But, I want some answers.
I want
some answers from them. Yeah, there's little so and so's. I want some answers from them. But I'm just giving it to you straight. That's what I saw. Them dropping from it, and that was it. Gone. The vision ended. Yeah. So I have, every time you feel, and that didn't know what was going on until afterwards. And then you think, oh, right. So I documented it. And that was like the sand when I saw with William, you see, the same kind of thing. So I've put it down to a vision. I might be wrong, but that's all you can do, isn't it? You can just put it down as a premonition, as you said, Michelle.
Yes. Amelia has a question.
Thank you. Comment. Wayne would like to share his opinion with you. He said, if you hadn't seen them, then you wouldn't have written this book. And you, I believe, are here to help spread a realistic word on what's going on. That's Wayne Mallows.
Thank you. That's very kind. That's very kind of you. If I hadn't have seen them, yes, I suppose it would have taken a different course. I think that we could say that for everyone, I mean, but it's just happened. And I actually, in answer to Wayne's lovely statement there, is that I almost passed it up. I wasn't going to write this book. There was one I wrote before, and I almost passed it up. And I remember when that was published by Kaplan in 2012, the first one, it was weak. A weak version, and I didn't mean that. I don't want that to sound demeaning for the publishers, because they're now out. They've gone bust. They folded, so the gentleman is all gone. But the Digital Demon is a stronger testimony. But I even remembered when that was published, and it was only a small publishing company. And I'm not demeaning it. It was. It's not one of the big houses. But when that came out, I was very proud. But I was also steeling myself for the reaction, because it was still then, you would appreciate, Michelle and Amelia, that it still was a little bit taboo. And you think, oh, God, what they're going to think, these doctors and this Cheshire Cat.
You just have to put it out there.
Yeah, and I did. And
it's your own self-healing. Maybe the book is a way to help you do that and get that message out at the same time.
Yeah. Kukukun is in there too. I went through the alleged reincarnations, the very horrible death, apart from the last one, which was the reptilian. But but I did put it out. But thank you for that, Wayne. That's very nice of you to say so. We're all important. We all need each other, because we all help to think about what it could be. We're little nuggets of gold. I liken to. We all have an opinion, and those opinions matter. When you have people who bulldoze or who are arrogant, that's where you just try and steer away from those guys. Because
we all have to evolve at some point. When you say things like, "Oh, I was very arrogant," and I was very angry and firm about this, you evolve, and sometimes these experiences help you to evolve. What made you decide to call the book "The Digital Demon"?
Yeah, very good point.
It's a very intriguing name. I have to say, I'm very curious.
It's in reference to technology, the mobile phones, and where it's leading. This is where I also delve into a possible future outcome, which I think none of us need to imagine what's going to happen. They're going to go down the cybernetic road. And you have, although Elon Musk is brilliant and I admire him, they are pioneers. We have to give them that. When they suggest hooking us up to machines or computers, it's wrong. This is damaging. Now, I saw a document, whether it's true or not, I don't know. I'm a bit guarded on it, based on plans for a 2050 agenda of actually introducing cybernetics. And I don't think we'll be surprised by it. Basically sticking chips in there,
Yes.
This must stop.
They're experimenting already. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the alien paradox is one thing, but when you plan to network people using cybernetics, I believe they use the word now, transhumanism or something, some ridiculous word they've created. It's cybernetics, basically. And one thing I will say is, when they begin this, and they're going to do it, this is the digital demon, or the quantum realm, then I should imagine we will reach the quantum realm, the digital, then the quantum, which it basically means speeding up things, the processes of computers and things, the three-dimensional thought. simulated thought for the computers themselves. We need technology. I've never denounced that. We need it. It's wonderful.
But
when
do you mix the two?
No,
it's
because
like
it's
having the bionic man, like
it's the
pros and cons.
That's what happens when you're the richest man in the world. You get bored and you have to. It's all about power after, and that's what's happening. This is all power hungry. This has got nothing to do with what's the right thing. Yeah, it's got nothing to do with what's good for humanity.
Yeah. But what you just said there, Michelle, was quite true. The point you raised, bionic. Now they'll use, although that's the physical attributes of us. That I'm not denouncing that mechanical limbs would be good for us. They would. But what he's talking about, we know what he's suggesting is in there. And this is a Frankenstein future if they proceed with this. And what they will do is, like you just said,
shut you down in a minute.
Yeah, and also they will use medical incentives to tell you that it's gonna they'll push the medical incentive. So there's always something they'll push that's an advantage to have this. It's going to be like a fad. It's going to be like your mobile phone, your digital demon. It's going to be like that. It's going to be.
But then if you're not one of those good little listeners in society, then you find yourself shut down.
Yes, I mean, look at
the switched off, right? Like.
Yeah. Propaganda works wonderfully. I mean, it's like the COVID vaccine. They're pushing everyone to have it. Some people may not like to have it. They don't want it. And regardless of their opinions, they must be respected. You can't force someone to be injected with an experimental drug. So if they can do that with propaganda, what on earth is going to happen when the cybernetic age, we reach it? They will be stronger. And once they get inside there is no turning back. There is no turning back. I have made it my mission to try and stop this. I mean, it's ridiculous. I couldn't. I'm a simple man from Bedfordshire. How can you take on an army? But you can write about it. And you can educate others about it. I'm not, as I said again, I'm not denouncing technology. It is wonderful. We need it. I love it.
But it has its place.
But it has its place, not joined with us. We're not, cybernetics, forget it. Forget cybernetics. It's monstrous. It's monstrous.
And now you're going to write another book. Can you touch on that a little bit?
Yes, not yet. I mean, I've got
still in the dabbling stages. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. I'm not. I when I write, I only write when the burst of inspiration comes. I'll be honest with you. It's like my art. I work very sporadically. Do you know, I used to kick myself about that. You work sporadically, but that's just who you are, and just accept it. You're okay that way. It's okay. If you do a bit of writing and then leave it, and then you feel guilty and you think, no, stop it. Don't feel guilty. Just do what you must. But I have thought about doing this book. It will be based on the reptilians. I want to, as I said, I want to look further into Kokukun, but also the monstrous aspect of the cybernetic age which is to come, and it will. I'll be an old man when they start that. I'm not that old yet, but I'll be an old man. But if we can stop it for the sake of our children, to stop this monstrosity. These politicians and they're temporary. They come and go, but the damage they do, some of them, by sanctioning things that are set in stone, then that can never ever be undone. We mustn't allow the cybernetic age or transhumanism or whatever they call it to proceed. We must stop it, and it must be stopped.
Should be able to be undone, I think.
Can anyone ever think of any advantage of that other than control? I don't think they could.
No, I agree with you. But who am I? Yeah, that's what
I plan anyway. That's what I plan to do eventually. It could take some. It may take some years actually to do that, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. But thank you for asking anyway.
Oh, I think it's fantastic. I think, once you get there and get it written and ready, and, we'd love to have you come back and maybe share that with us. It's an interesting topic. Absolutely.
Thank you.
And reptilians is something that's, a lot of people are curious about. You hear a lot about the Greys. There are a lot of abductees who've had experiences with reptilians. There just doesn't seem to be as much out there. And yet, there's a lot of belief that they're instrumental for part of who we are today, and that they are, like you say, when you look into South America, you look at all of these cultures, and you look at the serpent per se. You see it through different ancient cultures and ancient history, and you see depictions of it in many different cultures. There's something to it.
Yeah, there must be something. There must be. I mean, London has a lot of them as well. London, the capital city of London, has a lot of reptiles, statues of them. It's. I'm not an authority on them. Not a total authority, but I'm more interested in the ancient aliens. Yes, the Kokukan or Kokukan. I'm more interested in the ancient ones rather than the modern day ones, because I allegedly or seen something that might represent him. I mean, again, I could be wrong, but I trust my instincts. I think that was him.
You have a lot that's even closer to home. Like, I think once you get onto this ancient discoveries, that's a good place to start, because you've had an experience there, but there's a whole lot more. And I think once you start delving and you start realizing all the similarities between those that are in Europe, let's say, and India, and, Samaria, ancient Samaria, and you get the connections to South America, you realize they were really connected.
Yeah. Perhaps Kokukan was real after all. I mean, we don't know.
I think so.
I still think he was. I don't think he was all bad. I think, as I said, he was perhaps their version of David Attenborough. So we'll have to wait and see.
Maybe.
I don't think David Attenborough would find that complimentary.
No, for sure. This is a part of the show where you basically tell everybody how to find you, because we're nearing the last few minutes. So tell everybody how to find you, anything you've got coming up, promote.
Okay. Philip and I, my twin and I, have got a new website we've just created. It's at www.thekinsellatwins.com. I'm sorry, we couldn't find anything else. Trying to buy a domain name is difficult. It's the Kinsella Twins. So it's the KINSELLA twins.com. And what you'll see on there's my artwork. So if you want to take a look at my own renderings, please hop onto there. There's books there. Philip Mantle is on there as well.
Oh,
and of course,
excellent.
my book. Yeah, and my book, The Digital Demon, is on there, which looks at many aspects of this. I don't have the answers. I'm going to tell you now, because nobody really does. It's theories, but it's good to speculate. And it's illustrated too by myself. Some interesting. There are actually some interesting cases regarding the reptilians in there, and that was through Christopher Turner. Christopher Turner has been wonderful to me. He's the producer of Don't Mention the Reptilians. He endorsed the book. He did a foreword for it. So Christopher Turner, or I think they call it, they refer to it as Don't Mention the Reptilians, but was it called The Alien Legacy Where You Are, or The Alien Agenda, or something? It's to do with the reptilians anyway. I can't remember offhand. He won't be insulted by that, because he knows I'm scatty anyway. But there's some. He knows I'm scatty. There are some interesting cases of the reptilians in there. One of them is to do with a soldier that was stationed at the barracks in Germany. I won't say any more, but that's the whole point, isn't it? It's like you give a trailer away, but you don't give the whole film away.
Exactly. I like that. I thank you so much for joining us. It's been such a pleasure. You're a lot of fun. You're very informative, and you're down to earth. And I'm glad that you don't have all the answers. That's kind of what it's about, is just bouncing these ideas around, and hopefully, we've been able to lead you down a certain path that maybe you hadn't thought of, and vice versa. And maybe there's, people out there who are thinking the same, and maybe people will be able to write to you, find you on Facebook, and maybe you could just keep those ideas going,
Yes, I've learned to be a little bit more accommodating with opinions. So because I was arrogant myself years ago, so I think I've calmed the beast in me a little bit.
I think it was a little bit of fear as well, and it's understandably so. Understandably so. I'm afraid of it, so I understand.
I'm not so much, but it took me a while to get there. Yeah, it's good. Okay. But thank you, and I hope now you can go have a happy slumber. So.
Or breakfast, whichever.
Or breakfast.
Whichever one's
still dark.
Yeah,
it's still dark in the UK. It's still pitch black. So
no, it's like 4 a.m. I believe.
It's 4 a.m. there.
So that's all right. It's worth it. It's worth it. Thank you so much, Michelle and Amelia, and to your producers as well.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, Ronald. Good night.
Good night.
Well, that was amazing. We've come to the end of another fantastic segment here on the Outer Realm. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, everyone in chat. Big thank you to Ronald Kinsella, he was just an amazing guest. Huge thank you to Joe Montaldo, who's wizarding behind us, taking care of us. This evening's segment, again, is fully sponsored by Folgers Coffee. Go out, show them some love, people. We love them. They love us. Love them up. And remember to stop by International Public Radio, UFO Paranormal Radio, and the other one, which I should write it down again.
I wrote it down.
Yeah, I did in the beginning, honestly. But also find us on the Outer Realm on Facebook and Instagram. If you'd like to contact us to be a guest on the show, suggest a guest or topic, email us at theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Again, theouterrealmcontact@gmail.com. Now, tomorrow night, we welcome back Mr. Chris Stiles to the show, and he's going to left off where he did for Shag Harbor. Now, the Shag Harbor incident is sort of Canada's, Roswell, and maybe he can touch on that just a little wee bit for those of you who missed the first show. But he will be connecting on more Canadian content for UFOs and alien encounters. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully you can join us. So meantime, y'all behave, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Same time, same station. Good night.